people always say to me like, hey, I've started this business, coaching people and trying to change the world. So, you know, if I just change one person's life, I've done my job. I'm like, that's a terrible aspiration because that's a terrible outcome. I want to change 6 billion people's lives. How do I do this? Funny, I almost fell into it, really. So when I was 26 years old, I've been fumbling about in the dark my entire life. I've been like, you know, I was in like this special ed team in school. Like I had one-to-ones when I was in primary school. Everything was a struggle. I felt like the entire world was pressured against me and I couldn't understand anything, even down to small things like sitting in the classroom with other kids. I was even moved to a table with just 2 kids. By the time I got to like 26 years old, I was in my office in work. And by the way, I've been working a job, then failing at it, and then working a job and not being able to go in, get depressed, being on medication, all this garbage, right? And I'm like, what is wrong with me? And it finally came to a standstill. 26 years old, I had an incredible meltdown in work because they moved my desk around when I was on vacation, came back, boom. They put me in therapy. I had to stay home and do work from home, which is way before hybrid working was an actual thing. And during that time, then they gave me a diagnosis of what was called Asperger's syndrome originally with ADHD. So I come home with this diagnosis. I knew nothing about autism. And I'm a visual learner. So I go online, I'm like, autism, Asperger's, nothing. There was no videos on YouTube. No, it was garbage. It was nothing. It was 2013. Terrible time for autism information online. Nothing there. I was like, dang it. Then I had this brilliant idea. I was like, I've done 26 years of just about surviving to keep my head above water. Now I know what it is. Maybe I have information that I could give to other people and they could thrive as well if they haven't been diagnosed yet. Let's try it. So I just uploaded a video, left it there for like 2 months. Then I came back and I forgot about it. And it was like all these subscribers to my YouTube account, all these people asked me questions. I was like, I know the answers to these questions. And actually, I think I can help these people. So I just started to make content and then it just exploded. And then I realized everybody has a gift or something to offer the world, right? The group as a whole. There's no reason that we're here by accident, right? You know that, right? So, you know, 400 trillion to 1 are the odds of being a human, being alive. You're a miracle even sitting here, right? 10,000 years ago, the entire human population came down to 1,000 people worldwide. It's called the PETM era, which means we were almost all extinct. But your DNA, my DNA, and the entire group of people here now, society as a whole, we survived, which means, hey, there is no accident. There is no just, by chance. We're not ET snot. We are something magical, and we really need to understand that and give what we have out to the world. Because I tell you, life isn't happening to you, it's happening for you. And we have to be able to be cause over effect, meaning it's kind of like this. If I want to have a good day, I tell myself to have a good day. If I want other people to have a better day, I say, hey, I can help you have a better day. So that's why I started the Asper World, because I realized that people don't have the insight or the aha moment or the cognition, if you like, of saying, hey, actually, I could do some amazing things. So I started the Asper World. It's quite interesting. A lot of people think about like autistic individuals in business, right? Be it if you're the CEO or like the mailroom dude, okay? Everybody in an infrastructure, we have an urgency towards life where we all contribute towards the group as a whole. We all are part of this ecosystem. Now, if you think about it, a lot of people would say generally, oh, autistic people are, you know, they can't do a normal job. And, you know, there's 3 levels of autism, right? 1 level, you know, Asperger's, like, you know, do your groceries, have a relationship, have a job. You struggle in massive areas. 2, a little bit more intense, struggle in more areas, and it's deeper inside that kind of therapy and medication. And in level 3, you may be nonverbal, you may be completely just overwhelmed with reality, and you may struggle. But everyone seems to think autism is a level 3 only condition, which is incorrect. Now, if we think about the bigger picture, the biggest businessman on the entire planet, the guy who is populating another planet, the guy who is just literally, just any business he puts his mind to, skyrockets, right? Love him, hate him, loathe him, or whatever. Elon Musk is an autistic genius and one of the only modern day literal kind of like brainiacs that we have working on things, right? Yeah, he might be a bit crazy, but we're all a bit crazy. But if you look at him, he is the pinnacle of potential in business. So when people say, oh, what strengths do autistic people have in business? I'm like, are you kidding me? Extreme attention to detail, focus, thinking outside the box. Did you know if you ask an autistic person what they could do with a paperclip, you are going to get 27 to 30 answers within a minute. If you ask an average person, a typical person who is neurotypical, what they could do with a paperclip, they may give you 2 answers. So outside of the box thinking is an asset to a company, whereas people don't even see it like that. And I'll tell you something else. I briefed the European Parliament in 2020 on this exact issue where there's a big gap between autistic individuals being in work and not in work, right? And it's 80% of autistic individuals are not in work, not because they can't work, because the companies don't know how to take them. And this is not just in commerce or typical suited and booted business. What I'm talking about here is any type of work. And I'll give you one example. I was asked by Channel 4 to be on The Circle season 2, and I was player number 1. They paid me a bunch of money. I did big adverts, all of that. I did international press stuff, filmed all the stuff at Channel 4, did the Instagram stickers. 2 days before going in, we go into hiding first, right? They hide you for a week and then you go into the show. 2 days before going in, the executive casting producer from Warner Brothers, she phones me, she says, Dan, they're dropping you from the show. I said, why? They said, they want to play it safe. Channel 4 themselves didn't know how to place an autistic individual within a reality TV situation and feel comfortable with it, right? So we have a big learning curve here as a whole. Instead, they replaced me with a guy called Patrick, who was, I think he had cerebral palsy or some kind of physical disability, because it was more logical to see, oh, this guy's disabled, because I can see he's disabled, right? So when we think about business, there are more strengths than there are weaknesses in autistic individuals attaining towards the group or urging themselves towards the success of a business. You just have to be brave enough to take that leap. And I say this, be afraid and do it anyway. So if anybody is a business owner, a CEO, hiring, a recruitment agency, be afraid and do it anyway. Take on that risk. Life is about taking risks. We don't take risks, we don't go anywhere. And it's an indication that you're moving forward towards a potential if you're scared. What happens when you're sitting at home and you're comfortable? Yeah, you're comfortable, but you're not moving anywhere. You're sitting at home eating chips on the couch. It's not going to happen. Anyway, that's my answer. Look, companies as a whole are very rigid. They're suited and booted, and they live in this old time manner of, hey, isn't Bad Kingdom Renell said that a factory worker should set up at 9 a.m. and leave at 5 p.m. and you've got 1 hour for lunch and that's it. Clock in, do this, sit there and do that. Unfortunately, the human brain doesn't actually exist in those manners. The human brain is such a complex thing. Now, when you add in neurodivergent brain patterns or neurodiverse thinking patterns and the way that autistic individuals think, then we have a nice kind of perfect storm for chaos in the workspace. As I said about my own diagnosis story, I came in and they moved my desk around. Why? Because they'd expanded, they moved office. It wasn't just a desk move around, it was an entire office move. We moved across the hallway to a different office. I was like, holy smokes. What could have been better? Let me tell you some really simple ones. Routine acceptance. Autistic individuals have a certain routine that they like to stick to. Why? Because the predictability of knowing what comes next allows them to feel comfortable, safe, and kind of kosher in that moment, or normalized as a frequency, not as a type, but as a frequency. And what happens when you have a normalization of autistic frequency of brain pattern? You actually then have a more productive and more tentative workforce. Now, how could you do this? If the autistic person says, I need to eat a banana at 11 a.m., but I know that it's outside of the typical rules, we have an acceptance for that because it's disability. Kind of like, imagine if you went to a workplace and you're a wheelchair user and they didn't have a ramp, and they say, sorry, not in our jurisdiction to put a ramp in, it's your problem. No, don't be so ridiculous. You know, we have to have an equal playing field here. Let's level it out, right? Hybrid working or flexible hybrid working ideologies would also help if an autistic person is having a bad day or a meltdown, or if they're having a post work event meltdown or difficult time. Having hybrid work helps. Also, new communication tools. Autistic individuals, if you're just giving somebody a list of commands like, here, take this list of actions, you get to actions by the end of the day. Well, hold on. You know, you can't just spring it on. What kind of forms of communication? Do they want pictures? Do they want text, emojis, emails? Come up to them, talk to them, sing it, dance it? I don't care. As long as you know that the pattern of communication in the way that they understand in the best way, you will urge them towards an existence that is full of prosperity. Now, the other way, or the last thing I'll say, is creating quiet spaces. People won't even think about this, but actually just having a sensory break for 20 minutes, at the very max 20 minutes is fine, but you could do 5 to 10 minutes. What happens is it calms the brain, it lowers the tone, and then it increases the potential of tone for the person themselves, right? I did this, I tested this, and it was fantastic. You know, It's a funny question. I get asked this a lot, and I do public speeches all over the world. People seem to resonate towards me because I have two things. I have an ignited motivational energy inside me, a burning desire to change the world, to flip the universe on its head, flick the universe. And I want to do that. And I'm doing that, and I'm going to continue to do that. But I want to do that because I want to inspire people to also realize their potential. I mean, if you look around us, we've got skyscrapers, people putting spaceships on Mars, on the moon, constant bridges and architectural amazing things that are built by humans, just like you and I, right? And autistic individuals like Elon Musk, Albert Einstein, Greta Thunberg, changing the world, the way we think about things, because they're applying themselves towards the group. I want to wake that fire up inside everybody so that they don't even worry about self-doubt or lack of confidence or lack of motivation. They go, wow, my fire is burning so big, so bright that even my haters, my enemies, the critics are going to come close to my fire to stay warm and use its light, because my fire is so big. I don't care who agrees or not with me, as long as I'm going forward, changing the world through relentless action. And I want my audience to come to my speeches and realize that they can do that. They are a gift. And it's not just that. It's that they also have the ability to then change other people's lives. You know, I'm not satisfied with mediocrity. I'm not satisfied with just a mediocre life or the medium, or just being no. We as autistic individuals, as neurodivergent individuals, we have the ability to flick the universe. All you got to do is light the fire. The rest will grow, because we have abilities far beyond the typical ideas of the world. And I don't like typical things. I love people, but I don't like typical things. And so, yeah, if somebody comes to my speech, I hope and I pray that they realize that up until I was 5 years old, I didn't speak to anybody. Maybe my mom, you know, when I flunked every single high school grade. I flunked. I even put an Instagram post up. My teacher saying, Dan's never going to amount to much. Dan's not paying attention in life. He's not going to apply himself. He's not going to do anything. Science, English, maths, Welsh, because I grew up in Wales. None of this is going to work. But look behind me right now. Look at this. What's this? This is an MIT graduation certificate. I got a scholarship at MIT for leadership in the digital age of disabilities. I got a best-selling book in 3 languages. Internationally on 3 countries. I got a Disability Smart Award. I got an Autism Hero Award, YouTube Award, Facebook Award. I just won another award from Passport's Hero Award for Autism in Canada. When I was 11 years old, was homeless, right? Lost everything. Lost my house, lost my parents, lost the house, lost the car, lost the business, lost everything. We were homeless. But you know what I never did? I never sat down and went, oh, woe is me. I'm homeless. No, I was like, okay, dang it. Yeah, I'm sad, but whatever. How do I move myself forward? That is the key. If I can get that spark inside somebody else, I win. And I'll tell you something else. This last thing I'll say. People always say to me like, hey, I've started this business, coaching people and trying to change the world. So, you know, if I just change one person's life, I've done my job. I'm like, that's a terrible aspiration, because that's a terrible outcome. I want to change 6 billion people's lives. How do I do this? You know, if 1 in 40 people are autistic in the world, then I've got some work to do. I'm not happy. I've got like almost 1 million followers on the socials. I hit maybe over 1 million people every month with my content. That's not enough. More work needs to be done. Let's change the world. That's the kind of thinking. I'm like, come on, guys. And we need people to do that because we're hyperactive enough. And that is it.